Today, we're going to talk about user experience and web design specifically. And so this is something that's really important and that I've even been learning more about and just really kind of honing my own skills in. So I thought it would be really great to share it with you all. So this is a quote that I thought that was really interesting, and it's from Fred Beecher, who is a UX director of UX. And he says, "How do I explain what I do at a party? The short version is that I say I humanize technology." So that's what user experience is about. It's about humanizing the technology and the pieces of your business that are not, you or people, but that people interact with every day. So for example, the websites that you create, any social media interactions, all of that kind of stuff, those all require some level of user experience. All right, so let's talk a little bit more. Like I said, the overall experience that a person using a product, such as anything from a website, computer application, even coffee makers, there's a user experience to that. And it usually refers to how easy or pleasing it is, right? So the question that you always want to be asking is, how would your ideal client interact with your site? So I'm currently building a website with a client, and I have a couple more in the pipeline, which is super fun. And so I'm constantly asking throughout this planning and design process, how are people going to be using this site and what do we want their experience to be? Everything from how simple it is in the structure to find the different components that they need, to the colors and the images that we use to evoke some kind of emotion, right? So all of those different pieces play a part in your user experience. And so you really want to think through that. Even the process that someone goes through for connecting with you or them hiring you or purchasing from you, all of that is incorporated under that user experience. All right, so let's talk first about some of these questions. So I mentioned colors. So how do the colors of your page, whether it's a landing page or your site as a whole, how does that impact the way that your user feels? So with a little bit of research, I found some really interesting articles about color theory. And so most of the time people, we're going to play around with these colors and maybe some different hues and things like that. So red is typically very vibrant. It's very powerful. It often will signify danger of some kind, like think of a stop sign. It means stop, do what you're doing, it's going to tell you to either stop what you're doing, or if it's paired with other colors like black, it'll be very masculine. Whereas if you pair it with like pinks or whites and things like that, it comes off as more romantic of a feel, right? So all of that can be used to create a particular feeling when your client goes onto your website. Another color theory kind of piece with red is that it often will evoke feelings of hunger. So you'll see like Chick-fil-A and McDonald's and KFC and like a whole range of especially fast food restaurants use red in their logos and in their marketing because it triggers your brain to think, oh, I'm hungry, let's go eat. So just those kind of little different pieces that can be really helpful. So for example, red might be a great color if you are, wanting to create a very masculine looking site. Like if I was working with a man who wanted to create a site that really just felt like super manly and masculine, I might pair that with that black color and maybe some grays and really find ways to incorporate red into that. Or if there's, something that I want to communicate some power and some vibrancy on a page, I might use different shades of red. So in different colors and shades and hues of these different colors can really create different emotions. So that's something to think through. And you can even ask yourself, how does this color make me feel? I know that when I look at red, if there's too much of it on a page, I get just like overwhelmed and kind of like this uncomfortable feeling. And so if I were to go onto a website that had a lot of red, I probably wouldn't hang out there very long. So that's one thing to think about. Orange is a slightly toned down version of red. It normally conveys feelings of warmth and energy. And a lot of times it's associated with fall and Halloween and those kinds of pieces. So if that's something that you're really focused on, or you like that kind of autumn feel, orange can be a great color to use. Yellow, a lot of times, is associated with warmth and just brightness, and even sometimes just like youth. So something very summery. But what also can be tough with yellow is it can be irritating to some people. Not everyone loves yellow, and it's, depending upon what color yellow you use, it can be very off-putting. Like a highlighter yellow can just be a lot to look at, and it can actually hurt people's eyes. So like that's a really interesting thing. Blue is by far the most popular color, and it's because it conveys a lot of professionalism, just very calming, refreshing, cleansing. It's just really easy to look at. So that's, one thing. I mean, blue is like the most popular color across the world for most people. So if you're trying to promote or convey the sense of calm, or like refreshing feeling, or especially like healthcare, a lot of times we'll use blue. It's very popular. That can be really great. And the other piece of it too that's interesting is depending upon what shade of blue you can use, you can also convey a sense of sadness. So maybe if, what you're doing helps people work through something that's sad, or just connects people to like, for example, like a trauma therapist might use blue because it's going to be both calming, but it's also going to help that person identify with maybe some of those sad feelings that they're experiencing, and that'll help them to connect. Green, life, health, growth, money, all of those little pieces. Those can be really, really great. One thing to note with green and red is that depending upon how you use it, it can actually be really difficult for people who are colorblind. So that can be just something to think through about how you want to use those colors, and if that might be an issue with your ideal client. If you're working with people who are colorblind, you're not going to want to use those colors. But if you're working with people who, maybe are interested in artwork or, something that, or they're naturally going to be looking at something beautiful, you maybe assume that they won't have that issue. So just something to think about there. Purple, typically associated with luxury and royalty. And then pink is often very bright and playful and exciting, and often very feminine as well. So pink is one of my big brand colors. And so I think those things really, definitely are how my brand is experienced and conveyed through that color. So just something to think through, kind of thinking about, again, how are these choices that we're making our users feel when they're engaging with our content? Because even if it's not a conscious thought, there's those subconscious thoughts that are going to be working for or against you, and you want them to be working for you. All right. Next, let's touch on the sign-up process. So creating an actual structure. This is just an example, but looking and asking yourself, is your sign-up process simple, or do you require a lot of steps? And this could be anything from signing up to have a conversation or a call with you, to signing up for a program, or even like a checkout experience. So thinking through those steps. So I'm going to show you a quick example with the website audit that I do. And this was a really kind response that I got from one of the people I did an audit for. She said, "Thank you so much for this awesome audit. What great feedback. Love the format, love your energy, and suggestions are super useful." So that was really great to just be able to go through and, just hear that it was a good process. So I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit about it. So as you can see up here, first things that people do is they fill out that form, and it's really simple and it's really easy. And that was the purpose, right? So on that page, the form is all that's there. And I want it to be as simple as possible with as few questions as possible while still getting all the information that I needed, right? And then I send them this email, and it's automated on my end, which is great because it helps me to connect with them immediately and let them know that I received their request without me having to kind of sift through all of my emails constantly. So it lets them know, hey, this is what you're going to expect. You can expect it within the next 48 hours. And it's just like a general, kind and engaging email that's not super overwhelming. The next step is when I send them the audit themselves. This is obviously an example of one that I sent recently. So they get the link to the Loom video. So it's very clear. And again, it's short and sweet and to the point. I'm not trying to drag everything out. I'm just trying to give them their information. And so I'm trying to, throughout this process, keep it simple, make it easy, and really just kind of go step by step so it doesn't feel overwhelming. And then what I really love is I use Loom for these. And so literally they click on that link and it's a super nice interface. At least I think it's really great. And they can just watch the video and see it right there. And they don't have to create an account. They don't have to do anything extra. It's just an easily accessible video for them to watch. So that was kind of my whole thought process when even creating this system, was how do I want people to go through it and how many steps do I want them to have to take? I want them to have as few steps possible to get from point A to point B, which would be from signing up to getting their audit. And so that can be really, really helpful. And then from there, I can reach out and say, can I help you with some of these edits? Is there anything else I can do? Do you have questions? And the conversation can continue. So thinking through all of those different pieces is really helpful. A couple other questions I ask myself often, especially when building this website, is it easy to find the essential information on your website? So a lot of times this has to do with where are people typically going to be landing on your website. Oftentimes it'll be your homepage, maybe it'll be a blog, possibly your about page, but overall, is it easy for people to navigate? And how are they naturally going to be navigating your site? So for example, a lot of people come to my site through my homepage. They just either directly search for me or they've been given a direct link or, whatever. And so when they get there on my homepage, I have as much kind of summarized information as possible so that they know, okay, if I want to learn more about Hannah and about Westfall Digital Strategies, I need to go click this about page. If I want to know more about her services, I'm going to click here. And so you can really kind of go through and say, this is what I'm looking for. I need to understand. And all of it's laid out so that they can get as much information as possible and know what to do. Again, what is the checkout process like? So it's similar to, a sign up process, but if you have some kind of checkout, and this could even include like your invoicing system. I know that's slightly different from web design, but that's even something to think through as you're creating your website, is how do I need to set this up so that if I'm going to invoice a client or if they're going to be purchasing something through my website, what is that process going to look like? And then how do users feel when they navigate your website? And that kind of goes hand in hand with, is it easy to, find the essential information? If it is really tough for me to navigate, or if things are loading really slowly or like weirdly, I just don't feel great about it, right? I don't have the sense of trust. It's not easy to find what I need. And so I'm quickly going to leave that site or just become frustrated and not be super, super excited to talk to whoever I want to talk to. So those are just a few of the questions you can ask yourself that I often will go through and just really kind of ask multiple times. I'm like, okay, does this make sense? Is this, helpful? And it's really tough to do that because especially if it's your own site, you are thinking about all of this constantly. And so it's really helpful to have that fresh pair of eyes to be like, okay, here's what doesn't make sense. Or like, this doesn't seem like it should go here. So just a couple little, things like that. Okay, I know we have a solid bit of time at the end here because I wanted to leave it for questions and answers. If you have any, you can drop them in the chat or in the Q&A. And if you want me to go back to anything, I'm happy to go back to another slide and look at it there. Okay, great. Dahlia has a question. Wonderful. What about teal? So teal is great. I would say it is definitely a shade of blue, obviously. And so I typically see it in a lot of brands and designs that are kind of spa-like, or sometimes depending upon, I guess if it's bright teal, that's typically more playful, although I guess that would be maybe more aquamarine or turquoise, but teal feels much more kind of down to earth and like calming. It can also evoke some sadness. Right. So the client that I'm currently building a site for, she is a trauma therapist and she's working with a lot of people that are experiencing grief and working through grief. And so one of her colors for her website is this beautiful kind of gray teal color. And so it helps to connect with that sadness and that grief that people are feeling without kind of bringing everyone down. So it's an interesting balance, and she picked a really great color. It was really fun to work with her. So teal is a great color for that in that sense. And it's also can be really great for like anything that you don't want to do like a super bright blue. So great question. Awesome. All right. Any other questions? Another great one. Research what are appealing to. Oh, that's a great question, Dahlia. So she asked, have you researched colors that are appealing to various racial or ethnic groups? I have not. So the examples that I gave at the beginning were based on the United States. So research that they had done in the United States. That is I love that. Great point. So she said, red is a powerful and not masculine for me as a Black woman. Also purple. Yes. So I definitely think that you're going to want to think through your end user. Like I know, for example, I think it's, gosh, I'm going to butcher it. I think it's the Deltas, which is a historically Black sorority. Yes. Okay. I was like, I know that there's all these different sororities. I should know that better. Their color is red and it's powerful and it's beautiful and I love it. Oh, it's so great. And it makes a lot of sense, you know, with their mission and the way that they portray themselves and just the way that a lot of Deltas will carry themselves as this powerful color. So yes, 100%, I would say do some deep dive research as much as you can. And then also ask people who are your ideal clients. So if you're going to work with a lot of Black women or a lot of women of a diverse background, it can be really helpful to ask them those colors. The other thing too is you can use those really powerful colors in a way that's not going to be overwhelming. So for example, red can be a really strong color to use on a website. And if you're nervous or hesitant about it maybe coming off in a way that you don't want it to, you can always use it as a little bit more of an accent color, kind of like a secondary color. So for example, my website is a whole lot of pink. And part of it was I just love pink. And that was kind of the only thought process behind my selection of that color. I'm currently like doing a whole rebrand that I'm excited about. I'll probably stick with the pink because that just really matches my personality and I find it fun and inviting. So, you know, if that's kind of the same case for you, definitely sticking with that red. Like I love it. And all of these colors have kind of those pros and cons is probably a strong word, but kind of those positives and things that help and can hurt. So it's like blue, if you don't use it well, or if it's not the right shade, can come off as really sad or just like uncomfortable. Yellows can be really beautiful, especially if they're like more muted, all those different pieces. So yeah, definitely doing some research and thinking through your branding and stuff like that can be really, really helpful. And I would say, yeah, if you're looking at different groups of, you know, different demographics of people, that can be a really important insight into how you want to develop your website. I love that question. That's a great question. All right. Anyone else? Let's see. I know it's kind of both a quick and a lot of information at once, but I think it's always really fun. And this is something I've been working with one of my web developers on. We've been she's got a lot of experience with UX design specifically. And so she and I have been working a lot on some stuff. And so it's really fun to just kind of learn and continue to grow. Because that's the other thing with UX is it's something that should be constantly updated and kind of iterated and all of those different pieces, because you might find that, you know, the people who are engaging with your content, it's going to shift, or you might find that there's just different pieces of your business that are no longer going to be as accessible. So like, for example, the experience someone has on a website for a retail store that's mainly going to be in person now is going to look so different if they go full digital and vice versa. So it's just kind of an interesting thing to think through. Awesome. Okay. So I don't think we have any more questions, which is totally fine. Love it. Love it. I'm glad that you guys are here. So just a few things to wrap up. So next time we're going to talk about 3 questions to ask yourself and a prospective web designer when you're looking to build or update your website. These are just questions that I've found throughout my process of building sites over the last almost 2 years now or more. There's just these questions that we always kind of come back to. And so it can be really helpful for you as well to think through, okay, what are the things that I really need to know before hiring someone? And what are the things that I need to know about myself before I dive into that project? So if you're interested, please come join me back next Thursday at the same time. It'll be great. And then, like I mentioned, we have the WDS website audits. Right now it's just going through January, but a lot of people have been requesting them, which has been really, really fun for me and very helpful for them, hopefully. And so if you would like a free website audit, there's a link in here, but it'll also be in the follow-up email, and it's 100% free. I turn it around 48 hours, really quick video. And it's just my 2 cents on, how I think you can improve your site. It's really helpful to have a fresh pair of eyes. And then also you can still get a free 30-minute consultation with me, and we can talk about anything. So if you want to talk about social media, email marketing, search engine optimization, whatever you want to talk about your business, you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation call with me. And we can just kind of chat and see how I can help support you, or just give you some advice if you're looking for something in particular. So yeah, that's kind of all the fun things. If there's anything else that you guys have any questions about, or if I can help you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can always respond directly to the follow-up email, or you can email me at hannah@westfalldigitalstrategies.com. Great question. So what is next week? Well, the topic for next week is the 3 questions to ask yourself and your prospective web designer. I think next week it's at 4:30 and still Thursday. Great question. The 28th will be next week. So join me back here on the 28th at 4:30. You'll get the Zoom link, all that fun stuff. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions, please let me know. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye.